Alright, hi guys, welcome back. Now in this video I want to do the post grid component. So before I do that, I actually want to go back really quick to the off component. There's a mistake that I did. Um, I actually called this form switch in this comment here. And that might be confusing because it seems like I'm naming a variable. Basically this toggles the already user boolean. I think I called it form switch when I was working on it. I forgot to change that comment. So that's the only thing. So now basically let me get back um, to the post grid. Let me do, let me grab the HTML and the CSS. So basically here, this will be, let me grab it from here, put it in. And so we have the add post form, which is a form that pops up if the user wants to add a post. These are the delete all and add post buttons, which are two buttons that we allow the user to click on. One is for deleting all the posts, one is for adding a post, which basically renders this form. And then this is the actual post grid below both of these. And this is all the posts. And so I'll get to explaining in detail stuff in a second, because there's a new directive, an ng4 directive, inside this app post item component, and I'll show you that as well. First, let me do CSS. Let's see here, post CSS, and you can see I got a media query here as well for if this 500 pixels to show two posts on one line. If it's 250 pixels, which I forgot to put 250, basically it'll show one post. And so you don't have to use pixels, but that's what I put there for that, for the width. And so now let me explain this. So basically this is a div, and it just says post, and that's the post grid header. Now here's the form, and we did the same thing. We set it to ng form, the type ng form, we named it. And so ng if add is clicked, meaning that this will only render when the variable of add is clicked boolean is set to true. If it's not true, then it won't render this at all. Now this you don't have to. Now when you use ng if, you don't have to use else, and you don't have to actually have an ng template to render something else, but you can if you want to. Similar with the if clause, you don't need an else statement, but you can if you want to. And so we have an ng class of add post form, method of post, and then the ng submit of add the post, which is a method that I call inside of the postgrid TS file, and then add post form, which is what this is named, and then dot value to get the data from it. Same thing with the ng model. We set the text area and the input, and we just set the post body, or we set the name of the ng model to the same name as the actual name attribute. I have a placeholder, and let me see. Um, um, I actually didn't do anything with app message yet for this. So I'm gonna take that out. And let me see. Is there anything else? Okay, so basically the ng4 directive allows you to basically loop through variables. So we have a user post array inside of the postgrid TS that we'll make in a second. And basically we can instantiate, or basically each iteration, we can grab something from it. So I called it post, so let post of user post. You have to use of, and basically you can add an index if you want, but you don't need it. So you can just finish it with let post of user post like that. But I added this on here similar to adding an else if you want to render ng template with the ng if directive. But here I wanted to use index as I, and that basically allows us to create an index attribute. So we have to use bind the attribute.data index, which is a built-in Angular thing to that index as well as the key. And basically when we pass this when we pass these basically these props into the app post item. Basically, this is each post, and so now each post will have an ID that we get when we loop through this array. And then we want to pass the actual post as well, and the post num, which is the number of posts. All of these will be inside of the post grid component. And then we also want to catch and emit from the post item component, which is called delete post. And then we call a method there called delete specific post. And then we catch the data from that as well. So that's basically everything that happens here. So inside of the TS file, we simply want to bring in posts again, which we can auto import both of these. So I guess I don't have to bring it in there. So I want to create a few inputs, posts like that. And you can see it auto import when you hit enter or tab. And basically, we want to set it to an array of posts. And oh, I didn't bring in input for whatever reason. All right, and then I want to do at. And I want to do ID of user, which is a string. And then I want to do token, which is a string. And because we're getting these inputs and they can change, which, because if it's empty, if we log out when clicking the nav bar, we're emitting the nav bars inside of the home component as well as the about page component. So if we hit log out on either one of those components, it's going to emit it back up to that component. And then based off of that, we're going to use it to basically decide when we go to the dashboard, if we're going to actually, when we go to the dashboard link in the nav bar, whether to render the forms or to render the post grid. So we want to actually change this ng on init to on change. So we want to bring in on changes as well as here, and then ng on changes. And we want to also pass in that changes variable again with the type of simple changes. You can see it auto imports it as well for us. And so now basically I'm not done creating variables either. So I want to do user ID, and that'll be string. Add is clicked, meaning that the add form will render, and it has a z index of 2 in the CSS so that they can see the form. So user post, and it'll just be the post array as well. And then it'll be user token, which is a string. Then the number of posts. Oops. Camel case. Like that. And then it'll be a number. And then to the input fields. So we want post title, or this is not form input fields, but form input fields, because I don't want you to think it's from this. It's from the form here, the add post form. That's the reference that I'm meaning here. So I'll just do add form input fields, and then I'll do post title like that, and this will be string as well as the post body. And so basically, another useful thing that you should look up that I didn't do in this video is something called Angular Off Guard. And what that does is you use things like from the router module like can activate, and which is a variable that you import from the Angular router. And basically you can authenticate all of your routes on the front end as well using that. And I'm pretty sure there's good videos on how to do that as well. And documentation, I think, on Angular's website. Basically, that's a good thing to authenticate on the front end as well if you want to do that. I just simply didn't do it in this project though, but it's definitely something you should look up before I forget to make a mention of that. And then also, I want to do, let's see here, I just had a comment here. So once the posts are received in the app component, on changes, let me just do it like this, should fire so that they can be rendered. Let me actually put this on another line. Rendered in this component. And so now I want to do user ID is equal to changes ID of user. That. and then dot current value. And then I also want to do if changes of the token changes. Dot previous value is not equal to the current value, meaning it changed. I simply want to set the token. That's the token once the user is authenticated via register or login. And so I just want to use user token like that. And then want to set it equal to, wait, I called it this token for some reason. Oh yeah, so I want to set it to the actual input, but I actually want to set that to changes of token, and I want to set it to the current value like this. And so now I also want to do, I want to map through and add the index. And so I want to do let me write a comment here first for this. Map through post and set ID to each post object in the array. And I want to do let post counter equal to 0. Then I want to use user post. What I want to do is equal to changes. And I want to do post like that. Current value dot map. I want to do post. And so what this will do is it'll basically map through each post from that input, and I want to return it to the actual variable user post on the input, and then number of posts is equal to user post dot length. The reason why I did dot length instead of dot length minus 1 is because I want this number to be an actual like the number, and if I did minus 1 it'll be an index, and so then we'll always be missing one post, and so I had to do the length for that. And then so we're done with the on changes method now, and so now I just simply want to go right below that, and I want to simply make the methods for everything that we want to do. So it'll be deleting a specific post, deleting every post, show add form, which is showing the form, and then adding the post from the form. So those are our 4 methods that I want to add in here. Let me go up here on my other computer. Alright, so delete specific posts, then specific post ID, I called it, and then number, like that. And then I want to basically put the comment that I had there as well. So let me do that. Create a new array and filter the post by the ID and pass along the created at, which is always going to be unique, remember, because it will never change after the post is made, to the backend. I also want to say the index will be emitted back if the delete button is clicked from the post item component as the ID which was passed in from the post grid component. So basically, once they click the button in the post item component, the delete button, it'll emit the actual index up. And basically that index will be read to determine what post that needs to be deleted from the array. And so that'll basically delete the right post from the array in the UI before sending it to the backend and delete it from there, which we also already did using the pull method in Mongo. So basically, I want to do let created at is equal to post, then a specific post ID, which is what we basically remember because we're catching that, and it's called we can basically call it whatever we want, but it's the event data, and we're catching delete post and running that delete post specific post method, which is what this is. And so we called it ID, and it should be a number. You don't have to set the type there if you don't want to. And basically that's what we're doing here when that's made this comment. We pass it in and now we're receiving something back. And because it's an ID, and I gave it basically the same as the number, I want to do -1, so it'll be equal to like the 0 index in an array. And so I also want to, and then dot created at. So that should give us the actual created at, specifically for that index that we want to delete. And I'll do use new array equal to post dot filter. And I want to simply just filter the post to where, this isn't PHP, I'm not concatenating. And I want to simply just filter the post to where I'm doing post.id is not equal to the specific post ID, like that. And then now I want to set this array to the post array to update the UI. So I'll do post is equal to new array. Then I want to now pass this array along with the created at string of post being deleted to the backend. Let delete object equal JSON.stringify. And then I want to basically stringify simply the created at, and I called it created at, like that. You can use ES6 and make it the same one if you want, just one instead of just doing two like that. And I can do send this JSON object to the delete method in the post service. I'll call post, not that, post service. Oh, I didn't bring it in. So I want to bring in the post service as well. So we'll do private post service like that. Post service to bring it in. Yep. And so we want to basically come here and do post service dot, and then we want to delete the post. So we want to do delete post, which I didn't make yet. And this is going to pass in, it's going to take in the user ID and the delete object as well as the token. User token. And we're going to use .subscribe. We just want to get the response. And I just returned the string for this response instead of an object. And I just simply want to check if the response is equal to success. So I'll do if response, because it's a JSON object, I got to use associative array syntax of message, which is what I named that field, is not equal to success. Then I want to basically just log a statement that just says post was not deleted in the server. And then that'll be it for the delete specific post method. But now I gotta go inside of the service and actually create that method. So if I go into the service, I want to create that delete post method. So I'll do delete post, and it takes in the user ID, the data, which is that object, and then the token. And we want to return an observable again of type, well, this time of type string instead of any, because we're just simply returning a string of success. And then we'll do let. And so here, and so this is what I wanted to do for. Left myself a comment here about it being immutable. And so basically, what I mean is, you can't, um, you can't like create you can't append the headers to like, you can't append another header. I don't think so. You can't do like headers dot append and then add on like a header that you want, like X off token, and then um the actual value, um like this right here, and then basically just do this, and then pass in this headers, because actually it's immutable. So when you append this on, you have to set it to you have to set it to a new instance of it. So you want to do let new headers like that and set it equal to the current headers with this content type of application slash JSON, and you want to append on something new to that one and setting it to a new variable, because it's immutable, meaning you can't change the original headers, this one here, so you have to create another copy of it pretty much. And so now we just simply want to return HTTP, which, yeah, I brought it in already. HTTP dot post, because we're making a post request, to send the created hash string that we want to be deleted. And it'll be a string because we're returning a string type. And then I want to use backticks, $ curly brace, and it'll be delete post URL. Oops. And then we want to put a slash and then the user ID. And then I want to pass in the data object, which is the JSON object. And then I want to pass in the headers. New headers. And then that's it for the delete post method. And then let me actually put some comments here. Post, and then let me just do this. And I'll do delete a specific post for this one, pass along this one, this for this function. I'm gonna just say it like this. This function requires. Let's see. Wait. As long. Oh, you know what? I don't need that line anymore because I changed that. Originally, I passed the entire array, but then I decided I'm gonna just append it on. So I actually, I don't need to pass the entire array to do that because I'm passing that created at string. So actually, I can just even do this here like this to make that look neater. Oops. All right. So now I want to do delete all posts while I'm here. I guess I'll do it first in the actual TS component, a TS file here. Yeah, this shouldn't be delete post URL. This should be delete post like that. And then I want to, so the next method will be deleting every post. So delete all post method, and this will be delete every post like this. Oops, not with arrays. Curly braces, and I want to set the user post to an empty array. I want to set the post, I want to call it a post service method that I didn't make yet, but it'll be delete all posts. And then it passes in, it takes in the ID, user ID, and then it takes in the token, user token. And then we wanted to subscribe to it. And we want to do response again, same as before. And we just want to do if response message is not equal to success. Then we simply want to console.log all posts were not deleted. And so that'll be it for the delete every post method here. And so now we just want to do it in the service. On the side of the service here, we're going to delete all posts. I want to do delete all posts. And it takes in the user ID and a token. It returns an observable string. And basically, we want to do new headers again. Headers got append, same thing as before. X off token. And we want to append the value of the token. And then we want to return a post request. String, same as the observable type. And we want to do backticks. And it should be delete all post URL like that. And then slash user ID. We want to pass in the data. Not the data, but the headers. I don't know why I said data. For the data is null. We're not passing in any data. And then for the headers, we just want to do new headers. And then we're done with this method. Now there's only one more, and that's the add post method. So first let's do that in the post grid. And so for the add post method, I did some simple validation in there as well. I don't know why this keeps changing to the URL. It should be delete all posts. There we go. Okay, so we'll do add post. I'll just get the data from there. Because remember, inside of the HTML, this add post form, we're getting the data because we passed in that dot value and we named it add post form here and set it to type of ng form. And we're getting the values basically from these fields here, which are equal to, or the name and ng model are equal. And we also made a variable for those two in order for this to work, which it should be exactly the same name, which we did here. And so basically, now I want to first make the form invisible again. And then do add is clicked. And I want to set that to false, which will basically, remember that ng if directive. So if add is clicked, it will show it. So since it's false, it shouldn't show it anymore. And basically, I want to do let temp array. So I'm creating a new array. And that's of type string array. So it'll be string array and set it equal to an empty array. You don't have to define the type if you don't want to. Well, actually you do, because I think you get an error here of type never, which is basically the default type. So I think you should define it there. And so we'll do not data dot post title or not data dot post body. Then we want to do temp array dot push. And then we simply want to do all fields must be entered like that. And then I want to do if data dot post title dot length is less than 3, we already are checking this. Well, actually, no, never mind. We're not checking this on the back end. The back end is for the authentication routes, so we do have to check it here. And we'll just say title must be greater than 3 characters. Then I'll do if it's too large, meaning if it's length is greater than, I'll just say about 60 characters. I'll just temporary dot push title must be less than 60 characters. And now I just simply want to do the same thing for the post body. So we'll do post body less than 3, and then post body, and then we'll set that to something reasonable like 400. And basically I'll just say body must be greater than 3 characters, and then body must be less than 400 characters. And so basically I'll do if temp array dot length is greater than 0. We just simply want to do, now I had basically set the messages variable, but because I'm not doing the messages anymore, I actually changed this if temp array is equal to 0, because we're not doing that anymore. And we'll do let new post like that, and we're instantiating a new post object. Basically we're instantiating a new post object. Temp time is equal to new date, like that, because we're creating a new date instance. And the reason why I don't want to create new date basically like twice is because I want this timestamp to be the exact same. It just looks cleaner that way. Plus you can use it twice, so it's less like you don't have to like basically you just want it to be the same. So the new post dot ID and basically the update of that will be changed if you were editing the post. You want to make an extra component and like basically for like it shows like the entire length of the component instead of just a preview, and you can actually edit it and different things like that. And then that's when you would change the updated time, but not the creator that time. And so we'll do new post ID. We'll set that equal to user post dot length plus 1, because we want this to be the new ID, so we want to add 1 to it. We want to do new post dot title is going to be equal to data dot post title, like that. And then new post dot body is going to be equal to data dot post body, like that. And then we'll do new post dot created at. We'll set that to the temp time, and we'll set the updated at to the same thing. And then I want to basically now I want to add the post to the UI because it's quicker to add it to the UI instead of adding it to the database first and waiting for a response. So add the post to the UI with the added post at the beginning. So in order to do that, we would do user post dot unshift, and then we would just basically append on that object that we just created. And then call the add post method from the post service. So basically we'll do first we want to do let data JSON because we want to create a JSON object. We want to stringify it. We want to stringify the post field, which is the post that we just made. We want to just set that equal to the new post, like that. Then we want to just call post service dot add post. It did the URL again. There we go. Add post, and then it'd be that's because that's the URL. add post URL was already defined. That's why it does that. And then it'll be user token. This is what it takes in. Then we subscribe to it. It'll be a response again. Like that. And then we want to do if response, same as the other two times there. If the response associative array is JSON. And then basically if it's not equal to success, we just want to log a message. Let us know. We'll do console.log post was not added to your database. Like that. And then we're done here. So basically now we just want to create that add post method in the service. And so the user ID, data object, and then a token. And once again, we're returning an observable. And this will be a type string as well. And then we just want to let new headers. Once again, we're passing in that token. And then we'll do headers dot append x off token. We want to just simply append on the token. And then we want to return HTTP post request. Type string is what we're returning, so we're returning type string. And then now the actual path is going to be the add post URL and with the user ID. And then we want to pass in the data object, which is already stringified from the PostGrid TS file. And then we want to do the headers, new headers, like that. And we're done. So that's basically the delete specific posts, delete all posts, add a post, retrieve all the posts. And so now, actually, let me check something really quick. Make sure I didn't change that back to the URL. Okay, good. So now basically I just want to last but not least do the post item component. Pop that in here. Oh man, I hate Control C. My bad, guys. Let me grab that again. Okay. And so basically, we're outputting the post body and title, which is variables that we have in our TS file. And then an ngIf directive of post not null, meaning that it's not a null post. It's just for basically another check to make sure the post data is actually retrieved. If it's not, to basically not show it. And it'll still show an actual like post component in the post item, but it won't show any content inside of it. So you'll still see like a little like line, which is just empty. But if you want to basically do something about that, you would go to the HTML here, and you would pass an ngIf here of like post not null inside of this here, and then it will just take away the whole thing if it's not there. And so basically, let me see. Let me bring in the CSS as well. So this is the CSS. So we just have the post container, which is just a border and border radius. Display of flex for the post header, which puts everything in line. Overflow of hidden, meaning that basically if it goes past the boundaries of that post container, it'll just get hidden, and it'll stay inside of the post container. And basically post delete, which is just a button, which is just that X button. With 10% just in the corner, justify self start. They'll say start's not supported on all browsers, so you want to use flex start or something like that, just to be aware of that. That'll be a warning you get in the console when you run the application. And post title, you justify self to end because it's the title, width of 80%, so it doesn't overlap with the delete button. And then the post body, which is just the actual text and stuff of the actual post, which is the body of the post. And so now I want to open up the TS file. And let me just go to it on my other computer. Implement on changes. So I'll do that right from the beginning. And so we'll do on changes. And ng on changes. And we'll pass in changes. Simple changes. Alright. So up here I want to just pass in a few variables. So first let me just put a few comments. So this input is emitted from the post. Post, which is that post object that we also grabbed like that. You can see it auto imported it for us. And we'll do function. Oops. We'll do function that emits the ID. Basically, this emits the ID. It's not a function technically. So this emits the ID to the post grid, which contains the post array. So the post grid is what contains all the posts, and we're just looping through it. So each post item is only one element inside of that array. And so that's how this component works. It's basically an element inside of that post array and post grid. And so basically this will be output, and it'll be delete post, and it'll be event emitter. Oops, not eval error. Event emitter, which I'm pretty sure, yep, gave me the wrong one again. I don't know why, but just have to bring it in from up here. Event emitter, and it'll be of type number this time instead of any. You can do any as well; it'll still work the same way. And then we'll set it to new event emitter like that. And so now we want to create a few actual variables that's local to this component. So we'll do preview, and that's of type string. We'll do post ID, and that's of type number, and it's by default set to 0, which is already set to 0 by default. So you don't even have to put that, because null for a number is 0 by default. And then title string, and then post body string. Now, if we didn't specify post ID was a number, then you would want to set it to 0 so that it recognizes what it is. But because we're using TypeScript and not JavaScript, we can just set it to number. We don't have to, and so it won't be undefined. And basically, post not null, which is a boolean, like that. And so we don't want to pass in anything into the constructor. And so now we want to do check if the post is not null. So check if the post is null, and if it is, we want to check that by saying if this dot post, which is the input. We want to do if changes to post that current value is not equal to null. The reason why null is I did that separately is because if you don't do if this dot post, that means that it's undefined. And so what'll happen is you'll get an error even if you do a check here. It'll still say it can't read post because it's undefined. So that's why I did this dot post. So undefined is different from null. Undefined means it's like it doesn't know what type it is either, but null just means it knows the type, but it's just no data. So basically changes, and then we also want to check if the changes of post is that current value. It's basically on the dot title, I forgot to do that, is not equal to an empty string like that. And this should be dot title like that. And then basically we want to use post not null. We want to set that to true, meaning that post not null, there's actual data in the post, and then else post not null will be set to false, which is false by default. So once again, you don't even have to do that. You can just do this here. And then we'll do if this dot post is basically undefined, then post not null will also be false. This is in Python. Will also be false, and then once again we don't need to do that because it's false by default. And it's not undefined because it's type boolean. So now we want to check if the post is not null. We want to set everything. So inside of here we'll do I'm gonna write a comment first. If the post is not null, then set everything. And so here we'll do if and then we're checking that boolean that we just did, post not null, like that, meaning that it's not null, so it's true. And then we'll check changes again. So now we'll do changes, and then this time it'll be the post num, which is the other input that we brought in here. Oh wait, post num changes. Oh, I didn't bring in post num. That's actually one of the things you want to bring in here. And so input post num, that'll be a number like that. Let me just make sure by checking the post grid component that we actually pass in post num. Yep, see right here, post num key, post num, those are the three inputs. And so, okay, so back here, so changes of post num dot previous value is not equal to changes of the current value. To preview, if you were adding that post card component, which allows you to edit each post or update each post, and if the body text is too long, and then basically if changes of post input variable dot current value is greater than 50, right? Dot current value, and then we also want to do dot length is greater than 50. Then we want to let part be equal to changes of post dot current value dot length, like that, and then dot body, and then we just want to set that to a substring of it, so it'll be substring, and then we'll do 0 to 47. You can do any like ending index that you want, or starting index too. And so basically, and then we'll do preview, and we'll just set that to the part plus, and we're concatenating on a dot dot dot, a ellipses, and just basically to show a preview. And then else, if it's not greater than a certain amount of characters, we'll just set preview equal to that actual changes input current value of the body. So it'll be the current value body, and then like that, that'll be it. And so that's for the actual body. So now I also want to do if the post ID is changed, updated. You can update it on every like render, basically, if it's different and you want to like just update everything every single time. But basically, this only runs certain blocks of code if certain things changes. But you can do it the other way as well, because it doesn't put too much more workload on the actual browser, I don't think. But I'll just do it like this anyway, because I already did it this way. And then changes, and then we'll do key, and then we'll do current value, and then we'll do post ID, and we'll just set that to the changes of the current value. And that's only if it's different from the previous value. Like that. And then we want to set the post title We'll do current value dot title. And sorry if I'm typing a little slow. I'm basically in the car right now. And it's dark, so I basically can't really see my keyboard that easily. So if you post, it'll be post body. I'm not using the hotspot though. I'm using actual Wi-Fi, so that's why I'm still able to like test everything if I wanted to now. So it'll be post dot current value dot body like that. Wait, actually, I already set the body. I don't know why I'm doing this again. My mind is all over the place. All right, so that's it for that, and that's it for the ng on changes lifecycle method there. And now you just want to I just want to do delete this post, which is the method that's called if they click that delete button, and this will be delete post dot emit, and it just simply emits the post ID, which is the string. And so basically, that's what we're emitting there. That's what I did of. Oh wait, no, the post ID is a number, not a string. That's why I did post ID of number here because we're emitting a type of number there like that. Oh, another thing is if you do type number or object and you kind of bring in the wrong event emitter, like from protractor or something, it'll actually give a red squiggly line and it'll say event emitter is not of type generic, which will basically be a red flag right there that you brought in the wrong event emitter. So that's another thing you can pay attention to avoid that. And that's it. So that's basically the front end side and the back end side. Um, and so I'll stop the video here, and then the next video I'll just simply deploy it.